seagulls follow trawler. It's because they think sardines will be thrown into the sea. Thank you very much.
Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Talking nonsense. So I thought, no, enough's enough. Why should I put up with that? Don't back down, double down. Don't back down, double down.
Yes! Welcome to another episode of Post-Match Pish. Jonathan, let's just be clear about one thing here. Superstore at 4. Dinna let the fucking highlights fool you, pal. Dinna let the fucking highlights fool you.
That was amazing.
Fucking all this blonde hair now. Fucking, look, I'll go in later and the wife, she'll think I've been out by a big blonde or something. Fucking all that stuff through my hair.
That was good, mate. That was class. I knew nothing about that till like 2 seconds. Oh, I'm good, mate. How are you? Can you hear me?
Oh, I can hear you. How are you?
I'm very well, mate. I'm good. I enjoyed it today, and we're going to talk about the game obviously soon. But mate, it's the weekend for me begins now. I always work a Saturday, so Sunday, Monday's off and all that. We've got another busy bus. Sunday sesh tomorrow. It's going to be me and Mark and another. Still need to work out who. You're going to be too rough, you said, so you won't be coming on.
Tomorrow?
Tomorrow?
No, I'll be all right.
Sound you can come on then. You can get your own back on Kearney, mate, because I've heard having a bit of back and forward.
No, we need to talk about this, and I know that we discussed this earlier. We had a few Bhoycie Bus contributor meetings over the last 24 hours, and I know that we were supposed to keep this all in house, but I just can't contain myself. We need to address the issue here. So the other night,
you promised me. You promised me.
No.
Do this.
Listen, the other night, Kearney came on as a guest onto my post-match pish, right?
That's true. That's
my post-match pish. Now, listen, I know that you have got high hopes for this guy, and I'll be honest, I genuinely, the guy's there's something about him, but he is a wee bit raw. He's what I would describe as a sort of project. Do you know what I mean? He's one for the future. He shows a lot of talent, but fuck me, there's a lot of rough edges around. Do you know what I mean? And the bit that got me, Bhoycie, and the reason Mark has been disciplined in the last couple of days is he came on to my show, and every fucking time you asked me to speak, he jumped in. And he was disagreeing with things that hadn't even been fucking said yet. His natural disposition is, I'm going to agree with whatever this guy says, and that's fair enough. But at least wait until I've said it before you disagree with it. I don't know. I think he's got this thing in his head where he thinks he's some kind of Roy Keane, where no matter what is said, he's going to give a different viewpoint on it. And I like Mark, but he needs to understand if he's going to come on to post-match pish. If he's going to come on to post-match pish, he needs to fucking toe the line a wee bit. And
Aye.
do you know what? He's been schooled a wee bit, because I sort of made a reference back about Packy Bonner. And my point really was being, I didn't actually think Packy was brilliant, but between Packy Bonner and Artur Boric, I don't think we had a goalkeeper worth their salt. And I don't want to spoil my show with Dell in a few weeks' time, but my three goalkeepers in my lifetime are Bonner, simply because longevity, the length of time he was the Celtic #1 goalkeeper, he can't have been that bad. But then we had absolute flappers after that. And right through until we got Boric, there was nobody that I can really even remember. I know Jonathan Gould played in the title-winning team, but
he wasn't.
He wasn't great. And the point I was kind of making was Boric and Forster, for me, are the two best that I've seen in a Celtic shirt. And then you're probably going back to Bonner after that. But Mark just jumped in there. He just was headlong in, and then he got a call from his father later on to say, right, Mark, you've actually made a tit yourself in front of everybody. Packy Bonner was all right. What are you talking? He's talking sometimes. There's things he knows about, and he's really knowledgeable, and I like that. But when it's something he doesn't know about, he needs to just sit there and let other people talk about it. That's what I'm going to say on Mark Kearney. I'm not going to go any further than that.
It's fair to say Mark has definitely been one of the best signings we could have made on the bus. He's pure box office, man. I love it. I like the fact he's got opinions. And maybe, do you know what, Terry? He was on with a giant like yourself of the podcasting game now. I mean, you must have done maybe 9 or 10 shows in your life, mate. So, you know. So, I mean, obviously it was just a couple of teething problems. He's a wee bit over eager, mate, but I think there's a rough
we can work on him. We can sculpt him. He definitely, as I said, he's a bit of a project.
That's a post-match pitch on Mark Kearney finished for this evening, but we will talk about the score in question. And it's good to see, by the way, I like all the interaction between the bus members now, and that's all good, mate. So good. Everyone's getting a wee bit of a stage, and then they can all argue each other in a good way. It's all fun and games, obviously, as I'm sure everyone's aware. But I will see you at the Superstore at 4, Terry, after putting on that wig. Right. We will talk about the football, and there's a few different angles to look at it today. Pre-season friendly. The man that we've just spoke about for the last 10 minutes, believe it or not, informs us Celtic's first home win in a pre-season friendly since 2018 against Standard Liège. I can't believe that. But anyway, the winning games, losing games, drawing games in the pre-season doesn't concern me all that much what the scoreline is, Terry. Albeit you prefer a win. But that's as far.
You do. Every time you watch the boys pulling on the shirt, you want to see them win. But the good thing from my perspective, Bhoycie, when the final whistle went on that game today, is next week it fucking starts for real, and I can't wait. Honest to God, I'm so excited about the league starting again. I just can't wait. Get this next week over us, and then we're into the real stuff again.
I mean, I think I honestly said it on one of the shows that we did, and I don't know how popular an opinion it was, probably not. But I was like, I actually was enjoying the break, and I think it's you become so emotionally invested in this, and it becomes almost exhausting. It's a good energy. But it also starts creeping in your mind after lunch on your shift. Big game tonight. And then it just starts, it can overtake your sort of psyche in that. So I think it was a good break for all of us. And you're almost, the devil in you then just wants you to get right back into it now and put you through the mill all over again for the next 10 months. And we are getting closer to that, Terry.
There's no club puts you through the mill like Celtic. There is no club puts you through it.
No, there can't be. There just can't be. But the thing is, we did get a win today. I think we lined up, Terry, and we're going to start with the lineup. Do you think that's as close as what Ancha foresees as being his starting 11 next Saturday? I think the only one, if this is my opinion, would be ideally, I think if Jens or Starfelt cross off whichever one you prefer. But once they're up to, if they were at full fitness, I think they would be ahead of Welsh. In fact, they would be ahead of Welsh, let's be honest. But other than that, I think we've seen what is more than likely the starting 11 next Saturday.
If Starfelt's fit, Starfelt plays, and that's it. I don't know if I've seen enough from Jens to make a case that he warrants a place ahead of Welsh. I mean, I think Welsh is a wee bit unfortunate, to be honest, because he hasn't done a great deal wrong.
Surely been signed for that though, Terry, no?
Yeah, I think he has, to be honest. Yes, I think he has. But based on 30 minutes today, where he wasn't overly involved, I don't think you could turn around and say he's a massive fucking blonde hair. I can see it sticking up there everywhere. I don't think he's a massive. You can say already he's a massive upgrade on Welsh. But I think if we felt that Welsh was the answer, then we probably wouldn't have gone and brought this lad in. So I think if Starfelt is fit. If he wasn't fit to play today, are we going to throw him in next week? Probably not. I'd be surprised if we see Carl Starfelt playing next week. I hope this lad is the answer. See, whenever it was him and Julian, actually, they're quite similar in terms of physique and build and height. And if those two were playing together, you've got the height, but I hope we never have to rely on them.
I'm glad you said that, Terry.
I hope we never have to rely on them. Listen, I've been Julian's biggest critic. I feel a wee bit bad. Whenever even when he was in the team and playing every week, I never was a huge fan, to be honest. But I don't want to be too hard on the lad. I hope if he stays, he's able to turn it around and make some kind of contribution for us. I mean, at the end of the day, he was somebody that we watched and we felt was worth spending 7 million on. And as you know, Celtic don't throw out 7 million like confetti. So absolutely, there is a player in there. And if the window closes and Julian's there, he'll get my full backing. But Starfelt's fit, Starfelt plays. I would expect Welsh to start the game next week, but I wouldn't be surprised if the other lads starts either. If the other lad's fit enough, it wouldn't shock me if he plays. Ralston and Juranovic, I still think there's a decision to be made there. The selection today would suggest Juranovic. I'm going to go out there and say I think Ralston will start next Sunday against Aberdeen. The only other one that Jota on the right. Jota played well today.
Go on.
I think he's more of a goal threat coming from the left. I don't see him scoring lots from the right, although the goal he scored against Rangers, he was sneaking in at the back post from the right. He's good on the right. I think he's maybe 5%, 10% better on the left. He's more of a goal threat on the left, but if he plays on the left, that means Maeda doesn't play. But how do you not get Abada in? I need to get Abada in somewhere because I think this guy's superb. And if you play Jota on the right, you're not playing Abada. But these are all great options to have, and we do have some superb options in that sort of midfield front three. We've got great options.
Yeah, I think you raise a couple of the sort of personnel sort of decisions that Ange made that I was kind of drawn to as well. We had a great chat last week. It was myself, Dale, yourself, and Mark Kearney, the pantomime villain, and we were all talking about the Ralston Juranovic, and all four of us, not blindly, but we all agreed we felt Ralston's maybe just ahead of Juranovic, didn't we? We all went, and it wasn't a forced, because we're on a podcast, we'll agree with each other. In fact, if you've been paying attention recently, as Terry's just told us all, we get plenty of disagreements on the bus, which is what it's all about. I watched today, and to be honest with you, with the Juranovic display I seen today, I was more convinced than ever that I think Ralston's maybe just ahead of him right now. I don't know. I'm not saying Juranovic's a bad player or whatever, but he doesn't look sharp, which I appreciate as a pre-season friendly. But when you're getting into the nitty-gritty a week before kickoff time, there was that moment with a heavy touch in the first half.
He looks a bit 2 weeks. He looks a bit 2 weeks behind Bhoycie. That's all I would say about him.
I think that.
So if it's Anthony Ralston against Josip Juranovic, Anthony Ralston is now in the team based on my eyesight. If it's Anthony Ralston against Josip Juranovic, the Croatian international who has played great for Croatia, then it's a different discussion to give Mark his dues on that one. I think Ralston's ahead. Just based on what I've seen with my eyes, I don't care what the stats or anything say. Based on what I can see in these preseason games, Ralston is slightly ahead and deserves to play next week.
Yeah, I agree with that as well. Moving on to the star performer, I think, for everyone. And it's good to start on such a positive because, yes, the Ralston-Juranovic debate will split maybe some of the supporters, and that's fine. I think for me, it's a really positive conversation to be having when you look at the ability.
Brilliant. When you have two players as good as that for the one position, it's absolutely superb. And I know we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, and we were kind of going, well, who's the best? And there was a comment came in. Who was it? Ryan McGinley. He goes, let's just enjoy them both. And it just sounded so simple. You're kind of going, well, how come none of us thought about that? Just enjoy the two of them. They're two excellent players. There will be plenty of games for both of them. As long as they're both still here when the window closes, there'll be plenty of matches for both of them. There will be games that suit Anthony, and there will be games that suit Joseph. And we're just really, really lucky that for a position that we've had trouble with in the past, that we've now got two who are absolutely superb.
I totally agree with that as well. I mean, it's about, you're enjoying them both is a lovely sentiment, and I totally get that. I also think as well, though, it's important that when you're doing these sort of shows, we are going to debate which one we prefer, who we think should be in the starting lineup before a big game or in our bigger games coming up this season. That's always going to happen, and I think it's never always going to be a slight on the other one that you maybe prefer. And talking of competition for places, Rio Hatate, Terry, today was absolutely outstanding. Do you know it was weird with Hatate, right? And I don't want to. I don't know. I felt that his form was so good at the beginning, it almost became a bit mythical. Do you know what I mean? Like, see, towards the end of the season, you're almost going, was he really that good back in February? Was he how was that happening? Was this a flash in the pan moment with adrenaline and just a moment of magic? And you really sincerely
was there one game at the start that his performance today reminded you of? Because there was for me.
Hearts, Tynecastle.
Nah, that one, okay, I'll give you that one. But is the game at home to Hibs, the first game he played at home to Hibs, where after 20 minutes, people were saying we've signed a guy for 1.5 million, who after 20 minutes is now worth 20 to 25 million. You'd almost think we were Rangers the way we were talking. After 20 minutes, we were now classing this guy in the 20 million bracket. But the way he played that night against Hibs, he absolutely bossed it. Everything went through him. Watched him today, and the thing about the whole team was today, and we've been talking about this a few times, all these preseason friendlies, it's taken us 10 minutes to start. It didn't take us 10 minutes to start today. We were on it from the first whistle, and he was on it from the first whistle. Everything was going through this lad, and there was a swagger about Celtic in the midfield, and a lot of that was to do with him. And he's looking as if he could be an absolutely crucial player this year. Again, I think there's lots of matches. I think what we don't want to do is get to the point where we did last season, where this guy he looks burnt out and things like that. I think if we manage this guy's games, and the other thing is, despite his age, he probably isn't as far on in terms of his own development as a lot of players the same age, because he's kind of came into the game a wee bit late. And I think if he's one that we can nurture, we pick the right games, and we pick the right games to give him a rest and bring somebody in. And as we've talked about loads of times, we've now got so many options in midfield. I think we can do that. I think we can allow Cal Mack to have a break. We can allow Hatate to have a break. We've got lots of options in there without reducing the quality of the side.
Yeah, well, we do. We do. For me, I was going to take the debate into, I think we were looking at Callum McGregor and two from what is a very, very healthy midfield pool of options. That even sounded good, Terry. You know that?
Yeah, absolutely.
That even sounded good, that drink, mate. But the thing with Hatate's display today, I'm beginning to now think, come the big games, I reckon right now we might be looking at a situation where it's going to be one position available for the rest of them. Now, these things are all open to change as the season goes on, albeit I don't envisage Callum McGregor's shirt ever being up for grabs. But I do think when we look at, fundamentally that Celtic midfield, how it's going to be most effective this year, I reckon Andrew's already decided Rio Hatate and Callum McGregor make up two of those three at this moment. If he was, and it's not about people being incapable in things of changing their minds. His job is to change his mind on a daily basis, by the way, because you've got to always be open-minded with players you're looking at that have been out of form that you didn't fancy, and then you went, actually, look at how they're doing now. That's going to happen. I get that. And people's form can fall off a cliff as well. And you've got to be, whether one of your favourites or not, you've really got to be, Terry, open to then hooking them, particularly when we've got, and this is one thing that we all are continually being told in the last week when it comes to the signing of Aaron Moy, for example, he really does give us squad depth. Well, that squad depth, that's a good thing because that keeps players on their toes, right? I would have liked more direct competition. However, having said that, Hatate might be this ace in the pack that I maybe had thought was one of a group. You know what I mean? I thought he was, Turnbull, O'Reilly, Hatate. I wouldn't say there's all that much between them, in my opinion. That's what I thought. Now I'm beginning maybe to shift again.
Same but different.
Same but different, you could say, Terry. Now I'm beginning to go, Hatate might just be that step above. He might.
But listen, then the next game, you'll think, O'Reilly's a step above. And then the next game, you'll think, no, we can't let Turnbull go. Fucking hell, no, there's no way. I think all of this is really, really healthy.
Absolutely.
I think you're right. Calmack's nailed on, right? But if we keep playing Callum McGregor in as many games as we have been over the last 2 years, Callum McGregor's going to be finished in 2 or 3 years' time. We need to prolong his career. I think we now have enough options in there that we can let Callum McGregor have a rest at different stages of the season. There's games where we can leave him out. There's players who can adequately come in and replace Callum for a game. Absolutely no problem. It's the same with Hatate. He can come in, he can play, and we can give him rest when he needs to. O'Reilly, Turnbull, do you know what I mean? The options. They all can't play every week, but they all can play a really, really important part in the overall season. And I think we've got great options in there. And I know that you guys were talking last night, and you think that it's inevitable that we might lose one of these midfielders. And I don't disagree with that, but I just think having all of these guys just gives you so many. I mean, we haven't even mentioned the other names of Moy. Moy's coming in. If we're getting the Aaron Moy that played in the English Premiership, we're getting a fucking decent player. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Although when he came on today, all I could see was Del O'Reilly running around the midfield with the green and white hoops on. But that's another thing. We've got Moy, and then you've got McCarthy, who many think could emerge this season as our kind of our ball winner, our guy that our bit of steel in the midfield. And then we haven't even mentioned Ideguchi. So there's so many options in there.
That's why I do think one goes, Terry. That is why I do. I really do. I think when you're looking at the Moy signing, I think he's going to be the preferred sort of backup for maybe Callum McGregor that, James McCarthy potentially could have been. I wonder, I've got another angle in this debate. See, for me, if it had been me, maybe 12, even now, if I'm being brutally honest, I would have preferred to see Callum McGregor having one of the jerseys in front of his position, right? And an actual holding midfielder in there, whether it be someone already.
What do you think's Callum's best position, Bhoycie? 6, 8, or 10?
6. Sorry, he's playing 6 right now. I would have a number 8. That's where I would have him. I think he can be. I wouldn't have him as far forward as number 10, albeit his finishing used to be brilliant. But I just think Ange has decided that that's the position he wants Callum McGregor to play, which is fine. I'm sure Callum McGregor enjoys playing there as well. And I think that kind of is why now you're seeing more options for the more forward-thinking sort of style of midfielders, because that's where the competition's going to be, because in that number 6 role, it's set in stone, it's going to be Callum McGregor. Otherwise, I think it would have been not another it's two 31-year-old free transfers to compete for Callum, that number 6 jersey, if you want to call it. I know Moyes played for the forward in his career, but I mean, the way he was running about today, I don't know if he was towing a caravan or not, but it looked to me like he was definitely someone who would shoot.
You can't. The guy.
It's a joke.
Yeah, I know. I think if we're getting the Aaron Moy that played in the English Premiership, we're getting a good player.
We're not getting him though. Let's be honest, but we'll see how it goes.
Probably not, but we're still getting someone who can make a contribution.
Absolutely, that's it. I think it would be brilliant if we'd seen Callum McGregor in that number 8 role in his years at Celtic. If you told me 4 or 5 years ago he'd be playing this number 6 role when he was scoring all those goals for fun in the big games as well, we know how many against them. You think of Bayern Munich, other European games. I think Callum McGregor was a goal scoring midfielder, but he was also very creative and he was good on the ball. And do you know what one of his biggest strengths are, Terry? He's brave on the ball. He's brave on the ball. He'll take it in with 2-3 guys around him, which you really need to have that. And don't get me wrong, luckily for us now, we seem to have a few guys. Hatate, I think, is very much cut from that cloth. I think O'Reilly looks very brave on the ball. Turnbull's always been brave on the ball since he's
Dale O'Reilly.
But what I will say as well, I think in terms of physical profile, that's what concerns me with Celtic. Now, many people think that's a wee bit old school to think like that. I feel there's many ways to skin a cat, and you shouldn't turn your back on any sort of style. We're not in a position we can do that. Let's be completely honest. When we're going to the Champions League, we can go, well, we've got 3 great technicians and they're all brave on the ball. Well, the guys that are playing are going to be just as brave on the ball, and whether we like it or not, probably a wee bit better, Terry.
Yeah,
sometimes you need to combat everything with, just as I always say, there's many ways to skin a cat. And I just feel when I look at the physical profile of that group, that list of midfielders that you've kind of mentioned, I think we've named them all. That's 8, I think we got up to. Yeah, really, there's not much of a difference. If James McCarthy's like the real physically dominant one, but well, I wouldn't have thought so. But again, beggars can't be choosers. Sometimes we need to go, the squad is definitely healthy. It is a healthy squad.
If you had to meet James McCarthy at the Superstore at 4, would you be scared?
Yeah, a wee bit. I don't want anyone meet me at the Superstore at 4. I don't know what these people are about. They don't know what the blunt highlights fool you. I'm a quick runner. But Terry, Hatate's performance has been very encouraging. There's loads of nice comments coming in. I can see about Hatate so far as well. I'm all for that. I want Angie's signings from the J-League to become, sort of almost folklore for Celtic. Do you know that? Do you think there'll be another one that comes from that market again?
No.
This summer, anyway, is what I was meaning there. I didn't really.
No, I think he's come across. He's assessed it. He's picked out the best. I don't see anybody else coming from the J-League. Could be wrong. I don't see it. I wouldn't rule out any of the other markets, in that vicinity. But I think he's picked the ones that he thinks are able to come in and make a difference.
Yeah, Paul McQueen, I agree with that, by the way, big man. Absolutely do. Brown Warrior.
To be honest, McGregor's just an absolute class act. And
of course,
my show was coming up with Del where I'm picking my Celtic 11, and I've kind of been trying to work on it in the background. It's really, really doing my head in. And it's very easy and I've kind of had this with my dad. Like if I said to my dad, what's your Celtic 11? He would pick people from the 60s and 70s. And I picked my initial draft. But I'll tell you one thing. Callum McGregor is really, really pushing me hard to get into my 11 from my sort of era of being a Celtic supporter. Callum McGregor is an absolutely fantastic football player and a really, really good lad. And I honestly see him seeing his days out at Celtic. I don't see him going anywhere else at this stage. And just he can play. He can play absolutely any of the midfield roles. He's just a midfielder. I sit with my lads and they talk about. I try to talk to them about how good Paul McStay was, and they go, "Was he a cam or was he a CDM or was he this?" No, he was just a fucking midfielder. He just did everything. He was just a footballer who played midfield. And they're going, what was he, attacking midfield or was he defensive? I said, he was fucking everything. He just fucking done them all. And Callum McGregor's the same. Callum McGregor can play any of those midfield roles. He's just an excellent footballer.
Well, no, I agree with that. Absolutely. I was just wondering if, not necessarily a midfielder, but, I think the J League market that we've targeted so far. I mean, you look at Maeda's goal today, for example, Terry. Now,
he absolutely slashed at it, Bhoycie. He swung at it and slashed at it. It was,
Are you wanting a Mark Kearney card or something? Is that what's happening here? Huh?
It was a wild swing at it. He swung at it wildly. It just happened to end up in the net.
Right, can I go now? Right, no, I think though, when you look at Maeda's finish, for example, a player I was convinced, right, absolutely convinced, through the middle, third choice, not comfortable with it. And yet his last two finishes have looked so natural. I'm like, fucking hell, he's making me look daft as well. Do you know what I mean? But
we're not bringing in a striker. We're not bringing in anyone else.
Which is fair enough. That's fair enough. But the point I'm trying to make is, with the strike rate we've had from that J League, albeit Ideguchi at £800,000 hasn't. And I'll be honest to you, right? Had it not been from the fact Ange had been in the J League and we were signing a guy for 800 grand, I think, to use that word again, some of the Celtic fans would be underwhelmed at the time and maybe thinking, like, no surprise it's not maybe working out for them, sort of thing. But the hit rate of the other guys that have brought real value for money in a transfer era that is out of control, Terry, whether we like it or not, 4.8 million or 4.6 million, whatever it was for Kyogo, is a scandal in this day and age, right? Celtic, I've got the fans brainwashed, think, 5-6 million is a lot of money in 2022. It's not, right? The world's moved on. The prize money goes up. Celtic's kit revenues have went up. Everything's gone up. But Ange just managed to find these diamonds from a continent that never really been overly used, certainly in Scottish football, nor really as a direct sort of source of player for even in the EPL. Not often do you see players leaving the J League, being of Japanese nationality as well, straight for the English Premier League, nor obviously the SPFL. But
there's been guys from that area who have moved into another continent and done well. Yeah, you're right.
I get that. But with the success Ange's had, and quite clearly he's got a know-how of this league in the 2.5 years he's there. It's quite obvious Ange is a bit of a student, right? What we can take as well is he's not made all that much of last year in the SPFL, because I think he's been linked with a player from Scotland the whole time he's been here. That's just a wee throwaway comment, right? But the thing he's definitely proven is, when it came to the J League, the signing of Kyogo, he was never Kyogo's manager. It was just an admiration for what he was doing. Maeda did work under him, so that was a guarantee that would do well. Hatate hadn't worked under him. He had won 2 titles though, and obviously was a player that Ange admired. And I really, really like the thought of Ange maybe having 1 or 2 more there. I've demanded, I think Celtic should be pushing their boundaries, Terry, within their boundaries, but push them. What was it? I think Liam Gallagher said on the film Supersonic, he says, don't just touch the sky, give it a love bite. And I think that's what Celtic could be doing. Don't just hold up your hand and go, we can't touch the sky. Get right up there. Give it a love bite. Be brave. Be bold. Don't be stupid. Don't go bust.
No.
Right? No one's saying that.
Just push your comfort zone.
But what I will also say, because I know it's something I'm repeating myself, but what I'm trying to say is, see, to flip it, see if it were to be another player from the J League that you started looking up their stats and they came back with second top scorer in the league last year, or whatever it may be, most tackles in the league last year. They could be any position as far as I'm concerned. I don't really care. But if they were one of the J League's elite players again, do you know what? I would maybe start thinking, that's a bit of a marquee sign as well. Such as the success we've had. And I know it would be maybe not of this 5 to 10 million value I think we should be going for. Not that it's all about that, but I just think, the optics look good when you're being brave in the
Here's one, Bhoycie. Matt O'Reilly. We brought him in, and there's been a lot of chat around his stats, and he's appearing on all sorts of teams' radars because of his stats and things like that. MK Dons sold another player who actually had more goals and assists than Matt O'Reilly, not by much, But they sold a guy for, I can't remember his name, but he went for 5 million in the summer there. And the Matt O'Reilly one's strange is, how on earth did we get that guy for $1.5 million? Do you know what I mean?
I know.
That was superb.
Well, again, I think as well that he wasn't the guy that Angela identified for that role. It was Riley McCree, wasn't it? You know, and that was the one that I mean, it's undeniable that McGree turned Celtic down. I don't know what the reasons for that were. And the thing was, Andrew's a man with a plan there, because that O'Reilly deal was so swift on the back of it, which I think's that's a good way to go about business, and I like that. It's proactive. I just wonder if, rather than, which I am more than guilty of, and I'm not backing down from it, whilst I think there's more money there to be spent by Celtic than what we've seen so far, and if we are going to add to the squad any further, considering the depth me and Terry have just discussed, I think the argument now would be, if we were to add further, it's got to be, you know, picking from right at the top of that apple tree, that cherry tree, whatever the fucking saying is. You go get someone in this top drawer. Although I will caveat that with, if it's not going to be because they're a certain fee or whatever, I think if it was another J League signing, considering the success story that Maeda is right now, Patati is, and obviously Kyogo, I mean, maybe he was quiet today, no one cares. He just warms up for the big games, mate. He's ready to come back, and he's ready to try and be Scotland's top scorer and take it off Mr. Chaos Giacomakis. Another option we've got up top is not even been mentioned yet, 37 minutes in. Another thing that's not been mentioned yet is the fact there's 157 watching live right now, pre-season friendly. Thank you very much. We appreciate it. But I've not told anyone to hit the like button yet. So do
get them like
all that stuff. I think is it up there? Subscribe, like, share, comment. That's what it's all about. And if you want to become a Bhoycie Bus member, there's an option to do that.
Bhoycie, listen, see, last night, I was I had a couple of wee beverages last night, and I was in the chat when you guys were on doing your stuff. There's a few passengers are hell bent that they're for the Bullfrog next week. I'd be interested to know just how many people actually turn up. I was chatting to a few people in the chat, and they're going.
Well, mate, I think it's going to be 31st is creeping up, mate. 8 days time. And curiosity always kills the cat with these things as well. There'll be one or two strays coming in, mate, that we didn't see or we didn't expect to arrive, because curiosity always kills the cat, Terry.
Are you sure this place is big enough?
No, no, I don't know. I think it's going to be one of those nights where it'll be a coming together of people all there for a good time, and they'll realise we can all talk football and we can all have a laugh at the same time. And it's not always about quote tweeting people trying to go, the state of this, the redneck of this guy's a helmet. We're actually going to maybe have a wee debate about football in front of however many are there. We'll call it 2 million, right? 2 million, right?
Is that euro? Is that euros or sterling?
This is Nebos, mate. And but we'll say there's going to be a lot of people there. We'll happily have a debate about football. If people disagree, we'll be more than happy to hear disagreements without ridicule, without trying to get under folks' skin and all this nonsense.
Will Kearney's suspension be up by the Bullfrog?
Kearney's?
Aye.
Look, these are private matters we don't normally talk about on air, but I think Mark Kearney will make it just. Michael Ross, Bhoycie, 1 minute you're skinning cats, now you're killing them. What is it with you and cats? I've got a cat called Bagheera. I named him Bagheera. I think I get it for him. Right. We were going to talk about another thing. Now, Terry, I don't know. I hate trying to sound like an old fuddy-duddy when it comes to football. And I hate myself being like that. I want to move with the times, mate. But you can't help but just feel when you see certain things on a football pitch these days that you think, oh, for fuck's sake, what is he doing? It gives you the fear. Joe Hart seems to be playing a further 10 yards further forward this year than what he was last season, which was 20 yards further forward than he'd ever played in his life. He's now effectively playing a sweeper role. I don't know if you've noticed this. The centre-halves, when they split, when Celtic win the ball back, Joe Hart's effectively doing a sort of half sprint to get almost up in line to split the two centre-halves now. How comfortable do you feel with that? How obvious do you think it is as well to opposing teams when they do start doing their video warm-ups, etc. on Celtic? And could we be exposing ourselves in one hell of a way? Or is this how football's going now? You need to have 11 guys that can pass the ball. You are going to get up the pitch quicker. This is going to mean you've got the extra man at the back. So it's easier to get the ball into the offensive positions, and that's what we're looking to do effectively. And Celtic are good, and they showed it today at times, at one-touch passing and shifting the ball up from A to Z very, very well. I get that. How do the optics look though when you see Joe Hart, and how do you feel, Terry, as someone who's obviously watching this change happen in football from the same probably perspective as I have?
I think the thing that we need to acknowledge here is this isn't Joe Hart deciding that Joe Hart's going to do this. This is Joe Hart being told, if you're going to play in goal for me, Joe Hart, this is what I need you to do. Because if you don't do it, I've got Benjamin Siegrist, and he's going to come in and he's going to do it. So this isn't a Joe Hart tactic. And this is what everybody needs to understand. This is coming from Ange Postecoglou. This is the way he wants his teams to play. This is the way his teams have played before. This is the philosophy. This is his philosophy. It's the way he wants his teams to play. If Joe Hart doesn't do it, Joe Hart will then sit out and somebody else will come in and they will do it. Joe Hart doesn't look 1,000,000% comfortable in that environment. That's why Joe Hart lost his place in the Manchester City team, because Pep Guardiola came in and Pep Guardiola wanted his goalkeeper to play that way. Joe Hart couldn't play it the way Pep wanted, and that's why they brought someone else in. They actually Pep Guardiola brought in someone who was an inferior goalkeeper to Joe Hart in Claudio Bravo, but because Claudio Bravo was comfortable coming outside his box and playing with his feet, Claudio Bravo was brought in as Joe Hart's replacement. So it's not a decision Joe Hart has made. This is the way the manager wants to play, and Joe Hart has to adjust his game, or else Joe Hart will be surplus to requirements at Celtic Football Club.
True.
That's the long and short of it. And I think I've said before on plenty of shows, you've got to back the manager on this one. This is his philosophy. This is the way he wants his team to play. Will we get caught this season? Will Joe Hart get chipped from off his line? I'm pretty sure he will.
I think it's happening, mate, because
I'm pretty sure he will. I just hope
this isn't just last season, though, Terry. This isn't just last season. This is now, in my opinion, it's evolved this year. He's 10 yards further forward again, mate.
Yeah, probably. But the manager has obviously decided the positives that this approach brings to our game outweigh the negatives, and he, in his head, knows we will lose a goal at some stage because of this, but we will probably score more goals by playing this way. We will probably create more chances by playing out. We will lose a goal. My hope is we don't lose a goal in a Celtic Rangers game with 2 minutes to go. I hope we don't lose a goal in a Champions League game where we're playing really well and we deserve a result and we don't get it. I hope it happens when we're 6-0 up at home to St Mirren or something and he gets chipped from 60 or 70 yards. It will happen. But it's not the goalkeeper. The manager wants to play this way. He has weighed everything up and he has decided, I'm happy to go with this risk. So we just got to trust him. We've bought in Ange. He's come in last year. He was probably unknown to most of us. We thought we were getting Eddie Howe. We were on the Eddie Howe bus, and the feeling of deflation when the Eddie Howe thing didn't happen and we ended up with this guy, and we're all starting to Google going, fucking hell, what are we getting here? But within a very short space of time, we started to buy into this guy. This is one of his philosophies. He ain't going to change. And we either buy into it or we don't. And that's the same for the players. If Joe Hart doesn't want to play like that, then Benjamin Siegrist will play like that and he'll take his place.
Totally. I think from Joe Hart's point of view, I mean, I don't feel sorry for the guy. He gets paid, I'm sure, very handsome wage, Terry, each week. And, it's to play the sport that we all love just getting the chance to talk about. And if someone says you're going to be coming out an extra 20 yards and it's out your comfort zone, tough titties. You just got to get on with it, Terry, don't you? But what I found interesting is when you're watching it and you're seeing how direct this message is from the manager, Terry, right? This isn't just Ange saying, I want a sweeper keeper. This is Ange saying, like, you know, like Manuel Neuer sort of was for years. He sort of was the first one I remember being really sort of taken by it. But it was the sprinting up to split the centre halves. The urgency level is now reciprocated from what he was doing last season with the ball boys and stuff. You know, he gets the ball rapid. Do you know what I mean? He gets the ball rapid. If as soon as the ball goes out and it's a by kick, he's sprinting behind the goal, getting a ball. That was now almost what it's like. The second he senses Celtic about to win the ball back, he's actually half sprinting and the centre half split.
It feels, Bhoycie, like things have evolved from last season. Last season was
There's a difference.
your opportunity to settle into what I want. This season, we're going up another level. We're
100%.
We're going a wee bit more here.
You're 100% right, Terry. This is now, I think we're seeing the next phase.
Phase two,
mate. Like of Ange. And this will be obviously time will tell. And again, I want to be open to this sort of football because genuinely, you can turn into an old fuddy duddy. You know what I mean? You can go, oh, it's not like that. It should be one big striker, one wee striker running off him. Football changes it. You know, if you told me growing up, Celtic would only ever play now with one up top at home, even a Ross County, St Mirren, no disrespect to these teams. But you know, you're going one up top. No, we won't.
You can spin that as many ways as you want. That can be five up top. That can be one holding midfielder.
You know what I mean?
The other five all squirting forward. There's an argument as well, Bhoycie. We might already have seen phase two of Ange because in most of the leagues that he has managed in, you're playing 30 games a season, whereas last year we had 60 games a season. And if we look at where we were at after 30 games, we'd had that rocky period at the start. And then in the second part of the season, we just went into this phase where we just won every game that we needed to win. We won all the big games. I don't know. I don't know if this is phase two or phase three because mostly in his past 30 games is kind of phase one. Another 30 games is phase two. We had both of those last season, and we might even
spoke about that, didn't we?
I think
it's an interesting point. I suppose it's going to come down now to what faith Ange has in the starting 11. Now, all managers, I expect, always argue they don't have everything they want. No manager ever has everything they want. And if they ever said that, that would be a white flag to me. You know, you can't say that, right? But what I would say is Ange now really beginning to go, looking around that team and going, I'm now very, very close, if not there, where I want. Like, this is the confidence level on the ball. This is the energy levels in the team for me to go full throttle and play this Ange ball, as we were all getting told about. Is Ange ball now going to be, you know, no goalie ball? I don't know. It felt today, and I don't know how I've not picked up on this before, or if it was just today was the first time implemented. But Joe Hart's, honestly, it was frightening how, even if it was in the half of the other team, right? Norwich, couldn't think of their name there. If it was in Norwich's half and we win the ball back, he's still coming out of, you know, that extra. And he was so noticeably further forward. I think we had quite a lot of messages in the WhatsApp group chat before we even went live tonight. There's been quite a lot of messages in the group chat, on the live chat, saying how far out was Joe Hart. It was stagnant, but it was also the fact he was getting out there so quickly, Terry. That's what I'm going. There is, as you say, there's another evolution happening here. I can't put my finger on what it is. I'm not personally very used to it either. It does give me the fear to an extent, but I also feel I have to kind of sit back and go, 2 trophies out of 3 last year. This is the type of football he was aiming to last season, but while still winning trophies, surely will be even better when we're playing the football he was aiming for in the first place. I think the Champions League, for me, I'm very invested in that tournament for Celtic because I just think we've missed so many opportunities. There's a bitterness about that tournament for me, Terry. That's the issue with it, right? I'm bitter that Celtic haven't even been in it. The amount of times they've failed to make it is a joke over the last 20 years. And that's why I just feel like this gift that we've been given of a free group entry. I just don't want to see us cock it up. But there's so many other games in the season, so many other than those 6 group stage games. And let's be honest, the chances are it's going to only be 6 group stage games that we play in the top tier of Europe this year. There's so many other games where this Angie's implementing this system for. And do you know what? Maybe we need to just roll with the punches on this one and go, let's see, because it's obviously very deliberate. It's obviously how he thinks even further that we'll win even more points than what we did last year. And he's earned that trust with the success that he's had, Terry.
Yeah, I agree with you. Let's see what happens. A lot depends on the draw. To be honest, from the pot that we're in, I don't think the draw is really that important. You're going to be playing 2 absolutely top class sides. You're going to be playing a pot 3 team that's probably the one. The pot 3 is probably, you could get a pot 3 team that should be in pot 2 or pot 1, or you could get a pot 3 team that could be pot 4. But you've got to trust this guy. He went into the World Cup with Australia, and he, his ambition was we're going to go out there and we're going to win this. As unrealistic as that sounded, and they didn't win it, and they didn't get through their group, but they put up one hell of a performance. If I'm remembering when Ange was in charge of that side, all I want is Celtic just to go out and do the absolute best that they can do on the park, and the absolute best that they can do off the park.
It's a lovely way of putting it, mate, of course.
What more can we ask for? Do you know what I mean?
No, you're right. You're absolutely right. You are. And I think sometimes the thing is, having an opinion on it doesn't actually mean you don't respect the opinion of the people at the helm, And I think there's many examples where Ange can point to and say, you might not have liked the look of that. You might not have thought that would have worked out. You might not have thought the optics of that looked good. 9 times out of 10, though, mate, I was right, you were wrong. And fair dues.
But see, seeing his previous jobs, though, Ange has never going to be in a position where he can just go out and get everybody he wants to get. This is probably the job where he's got the most opportunity to speculate a wee bit. I can't imagine in any of those other teams that he's been the manager of where he's gone, I would like to go and get him, and him. And, he's come into Celtic and he's gone, I want Kyogo, I want this person, I want this person. And we've just gone and got them all. It's interesting. Let's just see how the season plays out. Next Sunday against Aberdeen is going to be an amazing day. The European Cup is for a few weeks down the line. Let's see where it goes. I'm really excited. I think we just have to enjoy this time as a Celtic fan. I know we've had all sorts of conversations over the summer, and my opinion and your opinion are quite similar. I don't want Celtic to do things that put Celtic into trouble. I just want Celtic to be the best that Celtic can be, and that means, are the players that you're going for the best players that you can possibly get into the team? Is the manager that you've got the best manager that you can get to manage these players? And just be the best that you can be. Nobody's asking us to do anything that's going to put Celtic into trouble. No. Just be the absolute best that you can be. And I see, to be honest, these friendlies and stuff, it's hard sitting watching these games and then you're trying to talk about them and you're trying to make them sound as if they're exciting and stuff. I just cannot wait for next Sunday against Aberdeen. That's the whole show started. Let's bring it on. Let's get it done. A wee thing I would like to say about the Aberdeen match next week.
Go on.
I was listening to comments there from the Aberdeen manager. Liam Scales has made a very big impression on Aberdeen in the short space of time that he's been there. And I think one of the benefits of the loan market, apart from us getting players in that we loan from other teams, is the players that we loan out to other teams. Liam Scales has been loaned out to Aberdeen, and Liam Scales has made a massive impression on the Aberdeen management within the short space of time that he's been there, and the fans. But next Sunday, their whole plans go into absolute disarray because Liam Scales can't play against us. I'm going to go back to the year we were going for the 10. And I was thinking, we need to do absolutely everything we can do here. we could have loaned players out to other teams in the league. We could have loaned out the likes of Griffiths, people who could make a difference in games where they can play, as opposed to games where they can't play against us. And we didn't do it. But we're playing an Aberdeen team next Sunday where Liam Scales is now an absolutely integral part of their defence, and he isn't able to play because obviously he belongs to us. There could be a day where Liam Scales comes back to Celtic. I probably don't think there is, but we've loaned him out to Aberdeen, and they are saying that Liam Scales actually is a very, very good footballer.
Terry, do you not think, though, this shows the two sides of the benefits of loaning within your own league, right?
The loaning within the own league is you farm out players that can play against your opposition. They can't play against you. Absolutely.
But not just that, Terry. See, for me, your form is important, more important, because it's in everyone's mind's eye. It's actually in everyone's eye. That's the thing. You're under the spotlight. You're playing in the league that we know. I think, you look at some examples. We put out Shved on loan. I mean, maybe the writing was on the wall for him anyway. But the fact is, he goes on a loan to a club in Belgium that no one's particularly familiar with. I know there'll be a loan scout that goes to monitor the progress. But I think we need to be honest. You want them under your watchful eye. You want to know how they can compete in the terrain that we compete in. I don't get the benefit of signing a guy from the Ivory Coast, loaning them out to, Poland, and then wondering how they're still not settled in Scotland. For me, for the amount of examples we've had over the years as well of players that have came from different corners, whether it be Europe, whether it be another continent, and they've struggled to adapt. Well, my answer to that would be, if they're struggling to adapt and then they're doubling on that because they're not getting a look in the first team, like you look how long, what was the boy's name that Brendan Rodgers signed in midfield? Began with a K. Signed it from Russia.
Bhoycie.
Kouassi. Yeah,
Connor McCann would have got that 1 second before me.
Yes, he would have. Connor McCann's fast.
Connor McCann got it before you even asked it.
I don't know. In fact, he was thinking it anyway. But Bhoycie Kouassi, why have him 3 years just sitting on the bench, giving him 3 minutes here, there? It's not helping, and he's still having to settle in Scotland. Get him to Hibs. Get him to Dundee United. I don't see the point in that because...
I think there's an actual show that could be around this. See this B team in the Lowland League.
There's 190 watching live, mate. So trust me, that's what's happening.
I don't give a bollocks about that. I don't give a bollocks about that. This B team in the Lowland League, this isn't worth a fuck, right? You've seen it with the young lad from St Mirren. We've identified a young lad who could play for Glasgow Celtic in the future. He's playing for St Mirren. He's on the fringes of the first team. He's getting game time. We're going to bring him in. He's going to be a project. He's going to go down to the Lowland League. How the fuck is that going to bring that kid on? He's gone down 5 divisions to potentially play for Celtic in the future, whereas he is actually playing for St Mirren in the league that Celtic are in right now. Mm-hmm. I expect that Celtic's plan with this Lowland League thing is, right, do you know what? We've got ourselves in there. We play ball for a couple of years, then we really press for promotion, and we start to get the Celtic B, the Celtic Colts, whatever the fuck they're called, up through the divisions, and we get to championship level. Mm-hmm. But if you're not in the Celtic first team and you're in that B team, you're fucking 5 divisions apart. What kind of progression is that for any young lad that you're playing? I mean, I don't want to be, I don't want to be disrespectful to the league that the Celtic B are playing in, but in my head, that's a hackers league. For fuck's sake. We're bringing in young lads and then we're farming them out to that league 5 divisions below the one that we're playing in. It's so much better for us to bring in young players and farm them out to other teams in the league that we are playing in and give them exposure to that level. And the Chris Iyer example that Paul McQueen is going on about there. Chris Iyer came into Celtic. He was a project, a wee bit like Mark Kearney, and we put him into Kilmarnock. We put him into Kilmarnock. Here's an idea. We should put Mark Kearney onto another pod just to develop him and try and get rid of all those raw edges.
Well, the thing is, he's awfully quiet in the chat, but he did tell us, Terry, at 2:00 this afternoon, he was on the vodka in a house coat, didn't he? So I thought you would either, it goes two ways, doesn't it? You're either lively in the live chat because of that, or you're just KO'd. I suspect he might be in that cupboard right now, sleeping.
Right. Chris Ayer comes in.
Yes.
He's been identified as a player with tremendous potential. If Chris Ayer had come into Celtic instead of us loaning him to Kilmarnock, we fucked him down 5 divisions into a fucking hackers league. Would Chris Ayer have come through and now been a full-on integral part of the Norway international team and a Premiership footballer in England? No, he wouldn't.
No.
Something has to happen. That Lowland League, I think Celtic must have a plan. They must have a plan where we just bide our time and we slowly get to a scenario a wee bit like Spain, where Barcelona, Real Madrid, they've got their B teams in the next division down. But see that 5 leagues below, that's worthless. You know, our kids that we're bringing in, our projects, our Mark Kearney's, there's no point in putting them down there. They're not going to progress at that level.
No, I agree with that. I think it's a good point. And I think the one thing as well I would say about it is, this isn't one that's going to, if a player's joining Celtic, right, that's maybe young, upcoming and stuff, and they're maybe joined Terry, right? Like a Kouassi, for example, or a Christopher Ayer. And see, when they've joined, they knew they weren't going to be straight into the first team. They knew it was going to be the long road. They knew there was going to be an adapting period in the country. I think, to be honest with you, it's remiss of Celtic. Yeah, I think the first 6 months, by all means, keep them at the club. Get them to know your captain. It would have been Scott Brown back then, but Cal McGregor, very similar. Get bedded in that sense. I don't mean in bed with them. But, you know, get sort of used to being at Celtic and then go, I want a taste of that. I want on that pitch with those guys. Because see, once you've had the 6 months, Terry, this can go 2 ways as a player. In my opinion, of course, I've never played the game, right? At that level. Wonderful left foot, anyway. If you are 6 months in,
what were you? What were you? A fat Chris Sutton, or what were you? What was that story?
Liam McRandles, a lazy, I know, unfit.
A lazy Chris Sutton.
unfit Chris Sutton. That's what I called him. I know. He's like, oh, I love that one, mate. That's great banter. See what he told me, Liam McRandles, about that. That was at the Canaries suite last season, and he's like, remember calling me an unfit Chris Sutton after we played the same football team? And I was like, I didn't think he would. I was like, "Are you think that's funny?"
Listen, imagine you were called an unfit Paddy McCord, for fuck's sake. That would be terrible.
He was like, Bhoycie, you're the youngest in the team, wearing a hairband, and that's how cheeky you are. He goes, I'm sure I scored a hat trick. I'm like, you're unfit, Chris Sutton. I know. I don't know where I get it from. Liam McRandles, though, what a legend, top lad. But yeah, I think when a player's been there for 6 months, Terry, right? I think I want in. Who wouldn't if you were at Celtic? See the training ground, see the stadium, see when it's full, see the team winning, see the fans. It's just the whole thing. See getting stopped in the street, left, right, and centre. You go, oh my God, all I need now is to be part of that first team. I want in there. So they've got 2 options. They can get frustrated, and that wait goes on longer, and they sit in the stands and they put on a 3rd and a 4th jacket over winter with the hoods all up and the woolly hat on. Or Scottish clubs get proactive and think he could be worth the taking. We're going to be paying their wages anyway. Do you know what I mean? They don't even need to probably even make a token 5% gesture, because I still think it's a win-win for Celtic. You know, you get them to a club in Scotland. For the players' development, it gets them still settling into Scotland but playing at the same time. They can't play against us and hurt us because we obviously see something in them as a player. Yep. It benefits the other teams when they're playing your rivals. It also benefits the other team in a very cost-effective way to improve the level of football in the top flight. You know, imagine like Liam Scales, for example, in an Aberdeen team in a Europa League qualifier. Not that they're in that this summer typically, but he enhances their chances of qualifying for Europe, Terry. Of course he does. If they were in Europe, he would enhance their chances of making a group stage of the Europa League, for example. And Celtic's always got a big enough pool of players to do that. This isn't us trying to hand out freebies to benefit other clubs, by the way. This is something that can be flipped and benefit us. And see, even if the player comes back, Terry, right, and he can't make it in that first team, Do you know what he can go on and do? Get us a transfer fee, because there's a body of evidence that this guy can play in the SPFL. And before you know it, rather than a guy disappearing like Shred for nothing, you knew you were getting nothing. You knew you'd paid his transfer fee, his signing on fee, 2 years of his wages, paying him off fee. You knew all that. Whereas, see if someone has a year at Aberdeen like Liam Scales, we might just get that 500 grand back, even if, as you said at the top of it, he isn't going to make it to get in the first team. I still do believe a good spell at Aberdeen, we might get our money back, Terry. I don't think that's a complete
Liam
lose.
Scales didn't do that much wrong, Bhoycie, to
No,
be fair.
I agree.
Liam Scales had one game against Bodo where it wasn't great. But apart from that, Liam Scales and Taylor at times last season were a toss of a coin. And in my book, I'll always be a wee bit biased because I always want the Irish guy to do well. But
Of course.
Liam Scales going forward, Liam Scales was ahead of Taylor in the final third. His crossing, his finishing, you've seen the goals that he scored. He scored a few goals. Probably Taylor just edged him out in terms of the defensive side of playing left back. But Liam Scales, according to the Aberdeen manager, is now a left-sided centre back, which is a position which we actually never gave him any exposure to. I'd just be interested to see how the season plays out for the lad. Yeah, do you know what? If it's never going to happen at Celtic, it's never going to happen. But there's a good player in there, and I'll just be keeping one eye on him just to see how he goes. And the good thing is he can't play against us, so he's been an integral part of Aberdeen's back four during pre-season. Come next Sunday, he isn't able to play, so some guy's going to go in there that is a second choice.
No, I agree with that as well. No, totally, mate. I just think sometimes you just want to have that competition. You want to have players that are, you want to have them, I just don't know, a wee bit more streetwise for when they come back into the realm of playing for Celtic as well, Terry. That's what
like Christie. Christie was the one, Bhoycie. Christie was hanging about the sidelines. He was in and out of the Celtic team. He was getting a few games here and there. He went to Aberdeen a boy, and he came back a man, and he cemented himself as part of the Celtic first team. Unfortunately, he didn't stay with it because I think Christie would have excelled under Ange. I think that work ethic would have been right down his street, but he moved on, and so be it.
Yeah, but it still worked out. Anyway, on that note, 1 hour, 7 minutes, Terry. Not another pre-season friendly out.
I'll go on all night. I'm Duracell. I'll just go on all night.
We will call it there. That has been brilliant to have you on, though, again, mate. Really enjoyed that. Post-match pish will obviously be a regular feature this season, as you all know. Terry Robb, the face of the post-match pish as well. It's been brilliant to have you on, Terry. Thanks so much for your efforts. Big shout out to everyone in the comments. And always remember, it's just a wee bit of banter. See you.
Some of his comments about me deliberately trying to cause controversy. Well, I work in the media now. And you've got someone sitting there next to you who's an embarrassment to the media profession. He's an apologist. He's a charlatan.